Okay, let's do this. So welcome to Python Zero to Hero. And yeah, so today actually is the last episode of the testing month, and I think it's a good way to wrap it up actually because today is less about the technical stuff. It's more about like methodology and like some ideas, and a little bit controversial topic I would say, and also some things to wrap up. I think yeah, you know what I mean. By the end I get to the end of the presentation. So I think it's a good way to wrap up the testing month. And yeah, so we'll also like maybe talk a little bit about like how to what's going on after the testing month as well. And by the way, today, like, I'm in London, in case you don't know, and like, the weather is horrible. And so yeah, starting yesterday, actually starting Friday, is like starting to get not sunny again. So it was super hot before. I bought a fan. I have made some cold coffee, and like now it's just like it's useless because it's becoming cold again. And yeah, it's crazy. And I get a little bit of I feel a little bit under the weather because yesterday I go out for shopping and then I feel like it's a little bit chilly. So yeah, I hope that it doesn't sound too bad. Like my nose is really like blocking at the moment, but I think I am fine. I don't feel sick. It's just I feel a little bit uncomfortable with my nose, so I don't know what happened. Yeah, I hope it's not the hay fever again. That's like really annoying. So okay, so yeah, shall I actually like introduce myself? I think that's fine, is it? I don't know, like, cause sometimes I just feel like doing it, sometimes I don't. Maybe I'll do it because this is the last episode of the testing month. Why not? So yeah, I'm Chuck. So hello, and say hi in the chat if you want to. So yeah, I kind of work on a lot of open source project. I am now like my full-time job is also working on an open source project. I work with within the team of Terminus DB. So we are an open source graph database that is also we can do Git function. It's totally open source now and forever. So check it out if you're interested in data and all this stuff. It's actually super bright. I have like switch off the blue light from my computer to try to like lower the, but it's still like very bright on my face. Sorry about that. So also I organize a lot of conferences. So actually EuroPython is happening in July. So the sprint is free to attend. The conference is relatively cheap because it's online. So if you haven't been to one, highly recommend it. And also we have other conferences like online conference coming up later this year. I'm also helping out in PyData Global and also Pyjamas Conf. So yeah, more announcement will be coming soon. So yeah. So recap what we have learned before. So we have learned like we like I said, this series is zero to hero. So we have went from the first episode that we just install Python, assuming that you have never done Python before. We try to learn something about Python. There's still a lot to learn, but you can see we have so far. It's like I think maybe I need to make the fonts smaller next time because like we just like keep learning more and more stuff. And this is all we've learned, and it's the end of the testing month. So in the testing month, we have learned a lot of things. The PyTest, more advanced usage, mocking, property-based testing, and we have also even talked about the linter, the auto formatter, a little bit last time. So that's good, and I hope you like start using those tools, and I'll explain why we have to put so much focus on testing. Okay. So I want to recap before we go into the TDD, which is test-driven development. I want to recap a little bit about like what is UniTests. This is actually a slide that's from before, so this is from the testing episode that I've done. That at first like point out what is a unit test. So unit test actually like is there's actually different types of testing. So unit test I would say is kind of like the smallest component of a test is is testing just like is testing things. You can imagine your code base is like an animal, okay, or an organisms that living organisms that you have a so unit test is basically testing each cell in the body of an animal. So you're testing like is this the smallest it's like breaking down things into the smallest thing you can test and test it. And so it's trying to create an environment that is like block out. So you got this input, and then you do the function, and then you test whether the output is the same as what you're expecting. So it's a very controlled manner. So you instead of testing things like in a big chunk, that you know what's wrong. You don't know what's wrong because it's a big maze that you're testing. It could be here, it could be there, like a lot of places it could go wrong. It's difficult to debug. So UniTest kind of have an advantage that because it's breaking down these big puzzles into smaller pieces. So if each small pieces work, then when you put them together, there's a high chance that it works. Of course, this not the only thing that you need to prove that that the whole machinery work. You also need other tests like integration tests, end-to-end tests, to make sure that all these small like components, the small cells that put together, it still works. But the idea is that rather than like looking for that, small box that's hidden within this big maze of code, you break it down, divide and conquer. So you make sure that this work, this work, this work, this works. So maybe this one doesn't work. Okay, I know that the bug is within this component there. Um, so that's unit test for you, and actually it's a very important component in doing TDD as well, because basically TDD you're like writing a lot of unit tests. Okay, so what is TDD? So like I said, it's test-driven development. So actually, it's not something like it's not a tool. I would say it's like a method rather than a specific tool or skill. Um, so it is a process that you that basically is defined by the steps how you develop your program, and how you build it up. So it consists of the things that we have learned. Actually, it consists of writing unit tests. It consists of writing code, writing classes, writing methods, and all this stuff. But it's just the process how you present it. So it's more like a method, a concept, rather than something a new skills that you learn how to write a TDD. Like you don't write it, like you don't have to learn how to write a TDD. It's a practice, so you learn how to uh, practitioner in it, but rather like you practice how to, to practice like to do it efficiently rather than like learning how to do it. Okay. So yeah, I think it's a bit vague for the moment, but like when I go into like what actually is a TDD, that is easy to understand. So this is the definition I found from Wikipedia. I always grab stuff from Wikipedia. By the way, like I donate to Wikipedia month like regularly because I found this good things to like find the references to a lot of stuff. So, and a lot of times it's explaining things like much better than I do. So that's why I always quote Wikipedia, because I think they explain things in a very beautiful sentence that I won't be able to come up with. So you see, I talk a lot, but like I'm not very good at like putting things in a very simple sentence. So, mm. So, like I said, test-driven development is a practice. Is a process. It's not as like a typical tool that you do. So there's actually development cycle. So this is the steps that is involved in a test-driven development. So you see that like the first step actually is to add a test. So this is like something that's counterintuitive. So a lot of people when they if you ask them to write a program to do A, they're just like, okay, maybe I should write a function to do A. So they just like jump to the code. But in test-driven development, that's not true. So if you want to, write a function to do A, first you have to write a test, and to do A or do like a partial steps in A or in a do something that could help you to achieve A. So that's the main kind of things for beginners that they found it weird, and also that's also why a lot of people don't like it. I will explain a little bit more later. So the first step is to add a test, and the second step is to run the test and then to see if the new test fails. So if the new so the test that you write actually is to achieve what you want to achieve. So if the new test doesn't fail, that means that you have already achieved it naturally, so you don't have to do anything about it, right? So actually, that's a free ride for you. um, but yeah, but that's one thing that is in TDD that is, you can see that like it's a bit strange at a first glance, but it will make sense afterwards. Okay, so and then you write the code. And so now after the first two steps, after writing a test and running the test, you write the code. Okay, so like I said, if the new test doesn't fail, you don't necessarily need to write a code. You get a free ride. Um, but I think 99.9% of the time it will fail because you haven't implemented that feature yet, so it will totally fail. And or the feature doesn't work like like what you want. That's why you're developing it. So like obviously 99.9% it will fail. So now you start to write the code. So if that piece of the machinery is not in the code base yet, so you write the code, add that feature, add that machinery in there, and run the test again, hoping it'll pass. And you may have to in the process refactor your code because there's always, a time that, this test passed and the other test failed because you have changed some logic there. Then you have to maybe refactor your code to make sure that both of them will pass, okay? And repeat the process. So now one piece of the puzzle is solved. So you have to go move on to the other one. So basically, test-driven development is that you have a big task and then you break down this big task into small steps how to achieve the task. Or like if you have a big piece of software, then you have many features. So you break down all these features into small features that okay, that's how you develop one feature and then you move on to the other one. So you repeat the whole cycle again. Okay. So, like I said before, the strangest thing is that you write the test before you write the code. So before you write the code to add that feature in, let's say, you write the test that is testing whether that feature exists. So yeah, so that's the I would say that's the main thing of test-driven development. That's why it's called test-driven development because test goes first. Okay. So yeah. So this is a cycle. I hope it's big enough for you to see. And so I would also talk through it. So first you write the test and then you execute the test. Run, that means like run the test. So if it passed, then you write another test. Like sometimes, like I said, you get a free ride. Like for example, if I input nothing, then it would just give me nothing. So, but most of the time, like that's not all you want to do, right? So sometimes you take in something, you want to give me back something. So you write another test to achieve that. If not, most of the time, then you will refactor the code to make the test passed. And then if the test doesn't pass, that means that your code, right, like is there's a mistake in there, or is it not good enough to complete the task? So you go back and to write the code again. And afterwards, you may want to clean up because you may create some intermediate things in there. So you want to clean up your code a little bit just to make sure that everything works perfectly, and also clean up some like maybe intermediate steps that basically you don't want in your code base. Okay, so they're actually good stuff about TDD. I am actually, if you ask me, I'm actually like if you put me on a spectrum of pro TDD or like against TDD, I would say I'm like more like a pro TDD spectrum. I know that like it's a very controversial topic. There are people that hated TDD, and I know those people because I've worked I've worked with some of them, and I totally understand the argument. So that's why I added in this section here to talk about it. But I would explain it in my point of view. You can disagree; it's totally fine. We can actually have a discussion if you type in the chat and like what you like about TDD or what you don't like about TDD, why you don't want to practice TDD or why you think TDD is not good practice. I am happy to open to hear all the opinions. I'm like I said, I have like a pro TDD, but sometimes I don't carry out TDD for different reasons. I will explain why. But so the good thing about TDD, the pros of TDD is that like that's the thing I like. Code are really well structured and clean. So because you're breaking down this like big task that you want to achieve into smaller tasks. So you have to really make sure that your code putting it in different modules and chunks that is isolated from each other. So instead of writing a big spaghetti code that try to achieve the end goal, you are actually having baby steps to achieve the end goal, and each baby step is its own function. So it's like kind of contained with it itself. So it's kind of like a relay. So you or like a pipeline. So you have these things coming in. So you have the first function that achieves the first step, and you spit it out. You put it into the other step to do stuff. Um, so you have different all this like pipeline. I think that's really like that would structure the code better than like you have a big function that achieve a spaghetti thing. And so naturally, if you practice TDD, your code will be really like contained within those modules, and this is better structured and it's easier to understand if you come back to it. And yeah, and like it's actually easier for people to maintain as well, because like they know that, oh, this bit is doing just one thing, it's not doing other thing, and it's like if it needs to be changed, or you have to try to find if there's a bug or anything, you just jump in like one thing, you're not touching other things. So it's really good that you isolated all your code and your functions in in modules. Um so and it's easy to maintain, like I explained before, that because your things are like your code are structured like within like different isolated sections, then you won't have a big spaghetti. So imagine untangling a big plate of spaghetti. That's difficult to maintain. But if you only have like a little, put like 2 or 3 spaghettis in one ice cube, then it's easy to untangle. You just take out the ice, those ice cube thingy, like the ice cube tray that you have little like the dent in there that you can put in stuff. So you put in like 2 or 3 spaghetti in one of each, and then like, okay, I know that like the first one, there's something there. I want to take it out and untangle those spaghetti. It's only 2 or 3 of them, so it's easy to untangle. Instead of a big plate of spaghetti, like how do I find it? Like how can I untangle it and find that specific one spaghetti? That's impossible. So easy to document, because when you write the test itself, it's actually, because I know that one of the good thing about Python documentation. Maybe we should actually have a have a tutorial to talk about Python documentation. Um, so in Python, there's doc strings that you can document each of your class and your like functions, what they're doing. So so first of all, your things are in module, and for each module, you have already written a test for it before you even write that module. Your function, let's say. Then you can actually, the test, you can actually use it as the example. So a lot of the time when you write tests, you'll be like, actually, I'm just like, this is like writing an example how to use my function, right? So you can actually put that test and then put it in the docstring as an example of how to use that function. So the test itself is actually a documentation of how to use the function. So it's very easy to document because, well, it's already there. You don't have to think of an example of how to use it to show people, because when you build a test, it's actually like before you created that function, you already think about how people will use it. That's why you write the test first. Because in TDD, when you designed your program and you want to achieve the task, you always you like this come to another point that you think in the user's perspective, that what you want to achieve, what you want your user to experience, and then you write the test to test that whether I could achieve that. So so that's good. That a lot of times people would be like writing code, then they have code. There's no directions to lead to what they want to achieve at the end. So they kind of like they sway a lot. They will be like, oh, it's exciting, right, 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 and then they go to somewhere that they achieve something that maybe not significant, what they want to achieve at the beginning. They got kind of got stray, got lost, and so yeah, that's not ideal. So that's also another advantage of TDD. So to balance things out, I'll talk about like what people claim to not like TDD actually. Um, that's one thing that I notice a lot of people would do. I sometimes I feel the same. I try to not. have this thought too much is that like I don't want to spend time upfront to write test. Like I just want something to work. I just like quickly write the code and make it work. Like why do I have to write test? Well, first of all, like I do believe that if you want to maintain the code, you have to write a test. Otherwise, it's impossible to maintain. So like that's a lot of mistake by a lot of new developers, new programmers that they don't write test. And I have actually I have one open source project that I'm involved in, and then like the first person who write that code was like is a relatively junior developer, and then that person right, and then okay, it seems working, and then kind of like okay, let's put it there. That's the code base, that's the demo that we write. So it's fine for demo to not have tests, but the thing is like afterwards we want to develop that as a product, and then when other people take over, like a more senior developer take over, it's like oh my god, what is this code? It's impossible for me to like work on it because there's no test. There's like it's just a bunch of spaghetti that it do the job of demo, like the concept, but basically we can't reuse those code. Like we can either rewrite it or someone need to like go in there and clean it up and write the test for it. So it's a bit of a hustle. um so yeah, if you want to write something that is other than like that is not a demo, not an experiment that you want to keep, you want to maintain, that it will go into production, you need to test anyway. So no matter like when you write it, I think like if there's advantage of writing it up front, like why don't you do that? So that's my counter attack of those complaints of TDD. And oops, that's not the slides. Okay. So another problem would be it's quite short-sighted because um it could be like okay, I want to achieve this step, you write it, and then afterward when you try to do another step you'd be like oh wait, I will have to go back and refactor the whole thing. So you think that like the development is a bit short-sighted. You just like have one goal in mind, that is that small step that I want to achieve, rather than like you ignore the big picture. So it would maybe cost you some refactoring afterwards. So that's the other point that people complain. Like refactoring is a pain. I have to go back and change everything and like make sure all the code work, all the tests passed. So, but I would say that that's more like the skill, how you do the design of the TDD. That I think for some tasks maybe maybe that's true. Maybe like is a bit of a pain because things can't be really isolated. But I think for an experienced TDD, like a developer who practice TDD, then um, when you first started the project, you already like have that in mind, that how you would break down the task into small steps that is really isolated, that doesn't mess up with each other. Um, I think that's more like most people complain about that because they don't have the skills enough to break it down into isolated process that you could perform TDD, that things are not interrelated with each other. So the way they break down stuff is not correct. That's why it leads to, I won't say not correct, but like it's not good enough. So it leads to all these troubles. And yeah, like bad tests lead to false sense of security. People think that um, I think I've developed this piece of software and it's perfect, because it passes all my tests. But actually, the tests are bad, or you write the test wrong. So it works, but maybe you haven't test the edge cases, you haven't tested properly. The test is wrong, so it lead to wrong code. Well, I think there's nobody to blame rather than you, because because you're not writing a good test. Well, like you can't blame TDD. You have to, you know, if you are not good at writing tests, it would cause you problems somehow anyway in the future. So don't blame TDD for that, and try to think of um, you know, like in this month, we have introduced a lot of tools, a lot of different methods in testing, and try to improve your test. You're blaming the wrong person. You should blame the test is not good enough, so you should improve the test. You should maybe find out different ways that can make your test more robust, like we cover more edge case. Maybe use property-based testing to find the edge cases. um so yeah, or like include have like other people to help you, to give more insight about like writing edge cases. Yeah, so it shouldn't be, it's kind of like this doesn't really solve the problem. It's like, try to avoid TDD because you want to avoid writing, you're not like avoid making mistake in testing, but you're avoiding TDD. That's a bit strange. Okay, so yeah, like read this like 5 excuses for not doing TDD debunk. So it's kind of similar to what I'm talking about. Actually, I got some ideas from this blog post. So if you have, because like I show you the slides link, I think at the beginning. So yeah, if you have the slides, then you can basically click on it. So some of them is like what I said, like a lot of people complain about TDD, they think it doesn't work because of that, and some of them are actually not, like it could be avoided as by other means rather than not using TDD. So that would help that to debunk some myths, I think. Um, yeah, so like let's summarize like when to TDD. So like as you ask the questions, because like well there must be some cases that like we shouldn't do TDD, right? And so when to use it, when to not use it. So I've tried to, this is actually a very nice blog that also like they talk about it a little bit, but I think in my own word I would be like when your task can be break down into isolated modules. Um, so for example, um, yeah, like I said, you have a big task that actually you can break down into small modules that is isolated. So it just like take the input, spit out the output, and then it doesn't care like what other people do. It's just like I have one task and one task only for that module is that I take that in and spill that out. I don't really, care about what other modules are doing. So that's a really good chance that you could use TDD. Um, Actually, a lot of the like user interface you can do that because like for each command, let's say, or each event that the user do, actually sometimes just like want to achieve one task. You may have like more complex interdependent relations, but but like most of the time you can isolate them as a different steps in the process. um Quoting from that blog, so again link is there, you can click on that. um so uh, yeah, so like if you have the pure logic functions that you can define a set of expected input and outputs. So like I said, it's isolated, so I don't care what other functions like other modules are doing. I know that I have to take this input in and spit that out. So that's a good signal that you could use TDD. Okay, so you can actually, once you're done, it's a lot of work, but you have the test and the code in place, so you don't have to worry about maintaining in the future. So I think I would like to summarize in this presentation to TDD or not to TDD, to be or not to be. Um, okay, I have actually three golden rules, my golden rules that I want to comment regarding this question. So first of all, if you are starting a project fresh, break down the task in units and TDD. So try to find out that isolated modules that you could just like care about the input and outputs, break those down and uh, you know and do TDD. So that's the most difficult bit. I think most people found TDD difficult because they don't break it down in the right way. So things are still interrelated, and then that's why like all the tests are like really intertwined with each other, and it really doesn't do that well. So that's actually the most difficult bits that like it require practice to to um to be good at to do TDD. So one thing. But that's not always the case. If you are taking over on a project that the code already exists, then add UniTests. Then I think rather than like doing things from scratch and uh, perform TDD, I think I add UniTests all the time. So that's happened to me sometimes. I'm not like strictly forwarding TDD. I'm not like a strict believer, like worshipper of TDD. I'm just like, I think it's a good method to do, but sometimes I twist it a little bit. Like I would write the test and write the code kind of simultaneously. Um, I know that it's not maybe like lots of people who practice TDD will be like, that's not the best practice, but I think sometimes I just take the shortcut to do that. But if you already have the code there already written by someone, just like add more tests to it, so it helps you to maintain. So UniTests is very good to lock pieces in place that you know when it breaks and when to fix it. Um, Unless the code is not to be maintained. I mean, like, I don't really care if you're like doing just a demo or an example that like you just want to show it in your presentation and afterward you just scrape it. You don't like you you put it on maybe GitHub, but like you never maintained it, and people understand that you never maintained it. Then that's fine. Uh, you don't have to write tests. But anything serious like professional in production, um, I think that you really need to test to show that you're serious about it. And don't be frustrated by writing tests. That's why we do this like testing month. I give you a lot of choices, a lot of different method. I hope you found testing fun. There's different ways to do tests. Just enjoy writing tests. Like a lot of people hate writing tests. They found it boring and stuff. But test is actually important. Test is like basically you're trying to be in the user's shoe and to use your stuff and make sure it works before you deliver it to somebody. It's like a chef when a chef cooks, those like really celebrity Italian chef, they always have that like they would take a spoon, a clean spoon from somewhere, scrape a little sauce, test it out, and to make sure that it tastes, like what they're expecting. They won't serve the food that tastes horrible to their customer. That's because they're a professional chef. It's like the same. You're a professional developer, you're a professional coder, a programmer, or whatever. And you created this product that you have to test it before you serve it to your user. So I think it's a little bit like a work ethic that you have to make sure that it works. So sometimes I feel like well, people make mistake, but like, at least you try, right? Yeah, I sometimes, I would be like, oh my god, I released something that there's a bug in there. I forgot to clean up something, and then oh my god, I quickly patch it. But like, I would try to avoid it. So writing tests is avoiding those, and that's really like I think it's like a chef tasting the food before they served it. It's to take pride of your work to make sure that it works before you serve it to your user. Um, at least you try. Like I know that no, nothing is bug free, but you know at least like if there's no test there, like people will be like, "Are you serious? Like you're using me as a guinea pig? I pay for your product." Well, if it's open source, there's more like forgiveness included. But if it's a paid product, especially, like people be like, "What? It's supposed to be finished, right?" And yeah, not good. So I think that's the all the presentation that I do today. It's like half an hour, so like let's try some TDD. So I hope you would get more, understand more about how this works. So let's jump to our coding tutorial. Setup. So I have this, and um, yeah. So let's see. So I have created a new folder. By the way, I just push everything like just before because I realized I haven't pushed all this stuff for a while. It's a bit of a mess, but anyway, if you need to, you will find it on my GitHub repo. Okay, even though it's a bit of a mess. I confess it's a mess. Okay, so what we're gonna do? Actually, we want to write that e-commerce thing. Oh, where was it? Yeah, the e-commerce thing. Hello, where are you? Okay, this is a toy, right? This is not a serious e-commerce. This is really lagging. It's like it doesn't, it's a toy. But we could try writing that in a TDD style. So we just do the same. Some user can, sign up, have a new basket, and put stuff in. Okay. So I just create an e.py just for the PyTest to make sure that it works. So we can have a new file. So we would have a eShop here. Okay. eShop version 2, as this is a different one, .py, and oh, actually, like let me rename it because yeah, yeah, I'll just make it one word because the hyphen doesn't import well in Python, unfortunately. Yeah, it's weird, but sorry about that. I'm sure you will find it. So we need test. So because we write a test first before everything, right? So test eShop v2. So dot py. Okay, so I said that we write nothing. We write the test first, right? But this is like really nothing. So what I gotta do is gotta put in some skeleton there, but basically that would do nothing, okay, before we write the test. So what we gotta do here is that I gotta have a class basket, and this will do nothing. So this will just pass. Yeah. So, oops, sorry, I forgot a df. What am I doing here? Okay, so we have an empty class that basically does nothing, and we're gonna test it out now. So we have import from. Actually, I would do a from eShop b2 import basket. Okay, and I would have a task. Let's say task initialize the basket. So init basket, and so yeah, I would just I won't make things fancy. I'll just you can wrap up the test in the class like I demo before, but I'll just make things easy now here. So the first task I want to do is I want when I initial. So let's think in a user's perspective. So I am a user. If I grab a new basket, then I want to know that that basket is mine, right? So basically what I do is um maybe when I initialize it, it will have my name, maybe my ID number, or maybe an ID number for the basket, right? So and also I would have maybe my the contents will be empty inside, so I have an empty basket. So let's do that. So I would have so I'll have a user name. Let's say I would have. Oh no, actually, I would. Oh yeah, I would just make like that. Okay, I would just use myself to test it, and then I would have a ID of a basket would be a So yeah, okay, let's not use the ID. It's a little bit complicated because that's our next step. Okay, so just a name and an empty basket. That's what I start with. So I'll have the content, nothing. Okay, so so now what I gotta do is that I would create a basket. So it'll be my basket is basket. Okay, and then I should put in my name there, and then I will put in, and then yeah, that's my basket. And then now I want to check that if the basket is initialized correctly. So assert basket dot I will call that name would be equals to username. Okay, no, equals to, sorry. And oh no, that's my basket. What am I doing? I'm kind of lack of sleep because I want to finish. I have to confess, I want to finish the game because it's actually Phoenix Wright. Phoenix Wright, yeah, the game, that on Switch that I was playing, and it's kind of like yesterday because it's Saturday and I'm having a break. I'm playing it, and then it's kind of go to the last chapter, and I was really captivated with it. I just want to finish it in one go. So that's a big chapter. That's actually I really love the character inside because I've been playing it for a few weeks, and it kind of it grows on you, the character, because the writing is so good. And I like I like thrillers. I like murder mysteries. So all of the the games chapters are murder mysteries, and you try to solve it yourself. And the characters are the writing is so good that I really fall in love with the characters. And at the end it's kind of sum up everything, so all the mysteries are solved, and also about the backgrounds of the characters. I really love that, and I was like, oh my god, I can't stop. So I kind of I power it through, and then basically I'm really lack of sleep right now. So really sorry about that, but yeah. That's life. So content, oops. So my basket, the content will be an empty list, I reckon. So okay. So that's what I want. So how about let's run the test and right. So Python test. Oh, actually, I'm running PyTest, right? Yeah. What am I doing? PyTest and test. Yeah. Yep. I failed. So this is okay. Remember the cycle, right? Let's go back to the cycle. Let's go back to the cycle. So yeah, we're using cycle to help us through. So come on, go back to this. Oh yeah, maybe go back to this slide. So at the test we have done that, and run the test and see if it fails. And which one's better? Actually, like yeah, actually this one is better. So if you can see, I think it's super small right now, but it's helpful for me now. And that's it says write the test, and then it will execute the test, and then the test pass. No, it doesn't pass. So you have to write the code to make it pass. Okay. So let's go there. Yeah, I think it's a bit pointless this graph because it's too small. Okay, I'll go back to here. I hope you can see that. And yeah, I wish the graph is a little bit bigger, but it's not. So okay. So now we have to make this test pass. So what I gotta do is that because now I have nothing, right? So that's why. So we have two things. We have a username. So I would take in a name here. So I would take in a username here, and I will have a self dot name. That would be the username, and I'll have a self dot content would be empty. So yeah, so that's how I initialized it. So let's see if we can make it pass. Okay. So it still doesn't pass, and oh no, that's the import error. So it's maybe the dot. Sorry, like I still like trip by this like PyTest quite a lot. So yeah, so it doesn't pass because I made a mistake here. My basket. Yeah, you can see that I lack of sleep. Sorry about that. So yep, we have write the test. It fails before. We have write the code. So now it passes. So we have done. Where is my slide? Yeah, we have done step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4 on the test. So it works. So we can basically repeat. So we don't have to come back and refactor it. So okay, let's develop a little bit more. Okay, so let's think. Actually, you know what? I also want a database to hold all my basket, so I can keep track of how many basket that I have. So I would have a div test init database. Okay, so so what I will have is that I will have how many basket is in there. So I would have a maybe the list of baskets. So let me think. So yeah, actually, this database will store. Let me think about how I want it. So yeah, actually you're designing it here, right, at the test level, not at the code level. So I think what I want is that I would store how many database I have, okay, and the IDs of them because I would delete them afterwards. So I would have a list of storing all the ID of the basket, okay. So I will have all IDs. Let's say so I would have a DB. Um, so I have okay, I first have to initialize it, and hmm, yes, I would have a my DB equals to a let's call it database for now. Naming is a difficult thing as is, so now I should have another thing called database, and So, and then I would be like add, so I can create basket. So I will have a database dot create basket, and then I would no, actually, like I would add basket there. So add basket. So this would be the ID of the basket. So basket ID there. So it's not database. What am I doing? Yeah, I'm a bit tired, I think. And so, and then now I should actually have a and in the ID list I should have two. So what I gotta do is that no, actually I shouldn't add the basket for now. What am I doing? I should actually like it's just initializing it. Okay, I'm not okay. That's a bad example that I'm not like breaking things down small enough, because if I initialize it, it should just it should just like create a database. So I should have a MyDB. There's nothing in there, right? So it should be like dot so dot baskets, all baskets should be nothing, right? Should be yeah, there. So it should be nothing. So I'm just testing the initialization. So now let's run the test. And it failed miserably because there's nothing there. There's no database there. So okay, I should create a database there. So so it should have an init that do a just create a or basket equals to nothing. Okay, so let's see whether that works. So let's go to the test. So you can see that this is actually like you repeat again and again, it still fails for some reason. Did I call it wrong? Yeah, I call it wrong. That's my bad. So you see that also, yeah, avoid all your silly mistake. It just tell you right afterwards that like no, don't do that. Okay. So okay, this is passing now. So now I want to have a add basket. So test. Yeah, maybe I should like really like wrap it up in different classes. So to make it more correct, I should have a class test database. Okay, so this one is now belongs there. I should add a self there, and this one should be class test basket. And I should really make this into classes. Okay. Yeah. So now I want to have a function to add a basket. So so yeah, everything is like breaking down into as small as possible. And now I can add basket. Add basket self again, and so now again, like my DB goes to database, and then I will have my DB at yeah basket. It should take an ID, which is basket sk ID, and now if I assert it, it should have the ID there. So bsk ID, don't worry, I would add the ID there now. So bsk ID is equals to let's say 000. Okay. Right. So let's run that and see what's going on. And oops, sorry. Excuse me, what's happening here? They're not wrapped it up in the correct. Uh, I think this needs to be capitalized. Yeah, maybe. yeah, maybe like it's a class. I should really do the correct naming here. Yeah. Okay. This, yeah, again, like we failed miserably for the last one, which is good because that's what TDD is doing. So now I need to have an add basket, and I have to take a bask ID, and I should have self dot. Oh no, I added in the wrong place. Sorry about that. I swapped the order and I didn't realize. Ah, horrible me. Okay, our basket now should have the append, you know, the busk ID there, right? Okay, so let's see if that works. Let's run the test again. So you can see that the cast take a little bit of time, but once you have the rhythm, then it's oops. Oh, what's going on? Oh yeah, what am I doing? Sorry. Yeah. So this is like the like don't write the test wrong. That's like, but you would figure it out. Like it's either your code is wrong or your test is wrong. So yeah, you will figure it out. So it's not a problem. If the thing is very obvious and small like this, so try to break down things as small as possible. So that's always a good tip. So now I want to change when I initialize my basket. I need to assign an ID to it. Is it? So what I gotta do is that I gotta create an ID and add it into the add myself into the database. So when I initialize a basket, and I want to have a name, a content, and also I need to. What I'm gonna do is that well, I want to have a so yeah, by the way, like this, some people really like when they're demonstrating TDD, they'll be like just you know, uh, it'll be like, oh, it's 000. So what I gotta do is that I gotta you know, so yeah, that's what people do. It's like they demonstrate. It's like, oh, I just return 000, and it will still pass, so it's fine, because now when you run it, it's still fine. So like people demonstrate in a very small step like this, and then you write another test. Oh, now I write another test. That it's let's say 2 and then it's 001, and then this one fails. You know, oh yeah, this one fails, so I have to change this into maybe like I can't have 000 or 001 because it's different, so I have to append the Basque ID there. Um, yeah, this is a very good point actually. That yeah, you could do that, but remember what we have done before. We have property-based testing, so we can actually make this a property-based test. So yeah, so like that would already skip one step ahead. So writing tests is not difficult. Remember we have done the hypothesis, right? So you can actually import hypothesis here, you know and oh shit, how sorry, I forgot how to do it. Wait, where did I do it? uh yeah, here, yeah. Strategy, import text, not text, but it should be a number. Yeah, sorry, I was like a bit rusty. I haven't done it for a while. It should be integer. So let's say I can only have like 100 baskets, so it should be a range. So it should be a given input. No, it should be one more thing. If be given, yes, given an example. No, given and yes, should be given. So we are trying to put everything that we've learned together here. So I put given here, and I could use a property-based testing here, given. So st dot, oh no, that's integer. So I do believe this is 0 and let's say 1,000. So oh, 999. I can only have like 1,000 basket. I don't care. And so this one would be a oh, I totally forgot how to do it. I'm cheating right now. So given something something something, and then I take it like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of on the right track though. So this will be the bask ID. So rather than setting it here, I use the property-based testing, and yeah, this should be fine. So so let's put it one step back. So before, we try to pass the 000, so I can do that, and it should fail miserably without even this test. Then it should fail. Yeah, what is this saying? Collection. Oh, cannot import integer. Wait, hypothesis. Sorry, I have to look it up. Integer. Right. Yeah, totally forgot the syntax of it, and it should be integers. Yeah. Okay. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, integers, mean value, max value. Yeah. I always always keep your documentation handy there. That's really helpful. So integers there and there. And let's see. So we are combining everything that we know, we have learned, and try to put it together. Yeah. So now it won't test because basically that's what hypothesis is doing for me. So now I can't just put anything there to make it work. I have to pass the test, so I have to really take the ID there and put it there. So yep, now it works because it just being flexible enough. So yeah, this is a very good example of um, using a hypothesis test to cover the grounds for you. And we can also develop much late, develop a little bit more. Now I have initialized it, but now I want to have my basket to have an ID equals to 0 because this is the first thing in the database. So yeah, so now you want to, and also assert that yeah, so you should also have, yeah, so now it's like it's not working because it's not a 0. So yeah, so it's not working, and then you go back here, and then you could be like, okay, I just add a ID there, dot ID, it will be equal 0, then it will pass. But that's actually very ridiculous because oops, did I spell it wrong again? Yes, I did. So it's ridiculous because it's like, well, why you always give it 0? But that's how TDD work. You should really just try to pass the test no matter how you do. So now it's like, oh no, it's not. And then because if I do another test, two baskets, and then you would have a now you created two baskets, so basket 1 equals to basket do check there, and then basket 2 is Amy, and then now I want to check the ID of basket 1 should be a should have ID 1, ID 0, second one should have ID 1, and then it won't work. It'll be, sorry, 0, and the second one should have an ID 1. That's what I want it to be, and it doesn't work because I run the test, see if I can free it. No, it will fail. And how can I fix it? Okay, come here. So now I have to increment it. So how do I do that? And when I init it, I have to, let's say I would have actually I have to now have the database I want to add in. So I would take a DB here. So I'll have a DB dot all baskets. It would be the length of it. So that would be my ID, and then I will add myself into the, okay, so that would be like my ID equals to the length of the basket, because I will be the one after. So ID will be my ID, and then I would have a db dot add. Yeah, so wait a second. Yeah, then I have to, okay, so this one won't pass either, but because I have to have a add ID there, right? So yep, it would not work because I haven't added, so I should we add the basket in there. So yeah, so db dot add basket, no, add basket, cool, add basket there, and then I would put a basket ID there, which is my ID, right? Yeah, so now this one should work. So nope, it doesn't work. So, oh, because the other test, yeah, now I have to refactor, because now I should take the DB there. So I would have to create my DB equals to a database, right? Okay, so I need to pass in my DB there. Okay, so the same to this test. No, I won't stop until all my tests pass. Okay, so I'll put my ID, my DB here, so put them in the database. Okay, so let's see if my code work. Yep, now it passes. So we have developed, like, bit by bit, we're developing a system that's quite complex. You can see we have two classes, they interact with each other. But because I add the test one by one in the smallest possible way, so you can see that, first of all, I initialize one basket, I don't care. But like when we have two baskets, it get more complicated. I just go back and refactor it, and make sure that it works. And then now maybe I want to add stuff in my basket. So test add item to basket. Okay. So this time I can do, I would again initialize a basket first. So I would have my basket here. And yeah, actually it doesn't really matter about this, but anyway. And then I would have a, I can add something in my basket. So I want to have an add item function here that I add an item that is item. So item is, so I don't need content here anymore. So item would be, let's say, apple. And then I want to assert my basket dot content would be a item in there. Yep, so let's see if that works. And first of all, run the test, not see if it works. No, it failed miserably. So I have to write the code to add the add item here. So add item. So this time I would take an item there, and I would have dot content dot append an item there. Okay, so now does it work? Actually, like, again, you can do stupid thing is like, oh yeah, Apple will pause for sure. But like, this is obvious enough that I think like you don't have to be that clear. I think it's only for demonstration purpose that people will do that. And oops, sorry, yeah, typo also be caught in the test. That's great. That's what I want. And another fail. Oop. Yeah, typo again. That's common. That's why I write the test, to avoid my stupid mistake being populated everywhere. Okay. Cool. And now come back. Now, no, write the test. So what test do I want? So again, like this one, I can make it flexible. I can use strategy here. So to make a text. So, and if I could make this at item to basket itself, I can make that into a given. So I would have a text. It can be anything. So here I would have an item here instead of apple. Then it should still work for every case as possible. Yeah. So you can see it like Mary like halfly like TDD and property based tests. Actually, they both work perfectly. Like, stop complaining about these things doesn't work. It may sometimes be difficult in some cases, but it will work if you really like want it to work. So I think that's it. That's wrap up for today. You can continue like playing around with these. I will actually I would just like push it now to Git to my GitHub repo so you can use it. So this is adding TDD material stage or push to master push. Okay, you would have it right now. So you can actually go to my repo and get it. So I want to wrap up by going to my last slide here. I'll go to the presentation here. So next week we'll actually take a term break because EuroPython is happening soon. I'm in the organizing committee, and I'm involved in PyData Global, which we would officially announce the CFP soon. It's actually like there we have softly launched it, but the official launch is coming next week, I believe. Um, and also there are pajamas cons that like we also need to prepare for the CFP opening. So there's quite a lot of work, and I decided to maybe take a term break for you and me. For you, maybe you can go out and enjoy the sun if it's sunny next week, next Sunday. And for me, it's like I can buy a little bit of time to do that because I've wasted a weekend playing games yesterday. That's horrible, but I will try to do more stuff today to catch up. And I hope you enjoy this episode of TDD. That we have go through all the the concept of it. We have go through all the arguments, like people love it, hate it, and we have tried to I have at least tried to demonstrate it in a lot of like way. I'm quite surprised I didn't plan to go to get the property based testing in there actually, but you can see that they actually work quite well because some people when they write the test for TDD they just like make a few examples, but like how can you catch the edge cases then? Well, use property based testing. You can see they both work very well together. um so yeah, oh, testing month in June is done. It's the last week testing month. So yeah, next week we gotta take a break, and I'm thinking what I gotta do when I come back the week after. So I'm thinking about like maybe going to deeper Python topics like iterators, what we haven't talked about yet, iterators, and maybe more about how Python object works. Basically, I have to really think about that. And but I think iterator itself is a good topic because there's a lot to play with. Um, Suggest other topics to me, maybe like a little bit about packaging if you want to have your own package. Documentation is something that I could talk about as well. So yeah, let me know what do you want to know, and we'll have one episode talking about that. So tomorrow, the large of data, we will continue to do data visualization. It will be about Matplotlib. So people found Matplotlib difficult to use, but I think because people just like they hack around and try to plot the graphs like most data scientists do. They just want to quickly get the job done and got a good illustration. But I would try to explain a little bit more tomorrow, like how the canvas of Matplotlib work, like what's the component within your graph. Understanding that will help you to use Matplotlib much better. uh, Again, I see people like complaining about stuff, and I try to debunk those myths that like, no, it's not that complicated. Like, you just need to know a little bit more about it, and I'm going to tell you that little bit things that you better know. Um, So yeah, I think uh, that's it. I just want to like have a break next Sunday. Basically next weekend, I want to take a break because it's summertime, and so yeah, there may not be a live next Sunday, but I would, I'll be back, the week after, and I still have my programs during the week. Yeah, so stay tuned, and I will see you soon. Bye.